All right, so high inflation driving up food and fuel costs, continuing to place pressure on middle and working class budgets. It is getting tighter and tighter, isn't it? According to the Mental State of the World report, South Africa has one of the lowest mental health scores in the entire world. South Africa constantly in distress over the high cost of living, crime and rolling blackouts. That's how we're all feeling. Our research company, Brand-Mapp, states that middle to top class earners' mental stressors have also intensified over the years. Well, let's find out what those stress points are. What are the trigger points? Brandon de Kock, Director of Storytelling at Brand-Mapp. There he is again. Hello, Brandon. Good to have you back on ENCA. So what is triggering us? Good morning. What's triggering us?
Morning. Yeah, geez, so shame. We're a traumatized bunch, aren't we? We've always measured the same question in our research, which is what keeps you awake at night? It's a pretty broad question, and we've discovered over the years that the top three have pretty much always been the same. It's crime, corruption, government incompetence. Those were the three things that were keeping people awake. And over the course of the last 10 years, we've seen that shift a little bit. So last year, we had obviously COVID, global pandemics leapt in at number 3. And our story last year was how sad is it that we live in a country where when 4 million people are dying all over the world and COVID only comes in at number 3. Like crime and corruption was still keeping us awake more than the global pandemic. Yeah. But things have shifted dramatically in the last year. And there's two things in particular. So what we see is that the level of worry, like 63% of people still tick a box to say crime. It's the same as last year. In fact, it's a little bit up. So everything that we were worried about has stayed the same. And then what we see are these two crucial things that have just leapt up the rankings. So rising food and energy costs has actually overtaken corruption. It's now our second biggest worry, sitting at sort of 54%, so around about the same as corruption, right? And then the second one, which is absolutely crucial, is that Eskom and power shortages has also leapt up from 32% of people ticking the box to close to 50%, just over 50%. So it feels like finally we have developed the sense of urgency that Andre de Ruyter keeps talking about. We as consumers, it feels like we've finally got a sense of urgency about Eskom. Something's switched quite dramatically.
Yeah, and something has to change, but the problem is we keep getting told, Brandon, it's going to be 12 to 18 months before anything really is going to change as far as Eskom's concerned. I can't help but think, when you take a look at the changes and the brand mapping and the storytelling that you gave us those stats for as well, it all comes down to mental wellness, doesn't it? And when there's a low esteem and low mental wellness, that's going to affect things like drive. It's going to affect things like your ability to be motivated as well. And that's not what we need as a country. So let's just drill down a little bit here as well. It doesn't look good. If this was a story map and a storytelling segment on the show, we don't have a very good story to tell, do we?
Well, no, we don't. I mean, and I think that's the great challenge. How do we as a country keep our spirits up while we're trying to fight this good fight? There's certainly a lot of negative news around it, and it seems like we're all in a very traumatized space. But then we do have this weird sort of paradox as South Africans, don't we? That, there's still people who don't believe that we would ever win another World Cup rugby after 95, and yet we did. So we seem to be this country of incredible resilience. We have these massive things that worry us. And yet when we ask how happy people are in South Africa, more than 70% of people say, I'm actually quite happy. I think the great hope is that we are so resilient that we're able to get over all of these things. But it definitely feels like this last year, certainly in the what we call the middle class and up, and remember, this is the group of people who pay 97.5% of all personal tax. We need this group of people to be positive and it feels like they're just finally biting the bullet a little harder than ever before. So your equation you just put on the table, Eskom, we're looking at 18 months. There could be some solutions maybe a little sooner, but something has to happen immediately with urgency. And I think that's what's quite cool about this finding, is that it feels like at least there's going to be a little bit more pressure put on the system by people who are really important in that system. These are the people who are running the factories, who own the means of production that can keep the country going. And boy, have they been hit by power shortages. We need to stop talking about load shedding, we talk about power shortages, blackouts, and that's the sense of urgency. Yeah, but yes, I mean, I think we are, as I say, we're a strange country, aren't we? We sit lying awake at night thinking about crime, and yet we wake up the following morning and we're happy to be alive. That such is the nuance of living at the southern tip of
such
Africa.
is the nuance of laying awake all night because you can't sleep because you're worried about the power going off, and then you wake up in the morning, the power's off. That's what we wake up to in the morning. It's fun to be a South African. Thank heavens we have the Springboks to cheer us up and faff at the moment. And he's a little South African mankini. All right, Brandon, thank you very much indeed. Appreciate your time. It's always good to hear from Brandon. They put into detail as well what is happening with at least the psyche of South Africans based on the research they have done. Brandon de Kock, BrandMapp Director of Storytelling.